Welcome to PHP, Parents Helping Parents. Super excited that you guys are tuning into our very own podcast for Parents Helping Parents. PHP, it sounds like a drug that we all need to take after our kids been crying for 2 hours in the crib. Just kidding. No one lets their kids cry for 2 hours in a crib. That'd be ridiculous. But this is a community of parents that are helping other parents. How? By just sharing stories, sharing life experiences, sharing our ups and sharing our downs. And man, do we have a fun episode today with the Fazio family, Emilio and John Fazio. They're some of the just gosh darn sweetest people you ever meet. I love them so much that just said, hey, we're trying to do this podcast. Would you come hang out? And the fun part is John is one of the directors at NBC Camps, puts on all these great camps for kids who want to just be better at basketball and treats really good Christian values and really good things. Amelia is a elementary teacher over at a local elementary school, Evergreen. They have 3 kids. And we're excited because we're going to be talking about one of their kids today, their oldest, Preston, who goes to our youth group here at North Church. And I will tell you what, he is a sweetheart. I love him to death. But like all kids, we have our ups and downs. And so we're going to hear a little bit of a story from the Fazios of just some of their struggles and as they've been parenting. And what I love about this is just hearing their story, right? Hearing them talk about it has given me glimpses of just what expectations do I have for my kids, and then where do I need to adjust my expectations. So tune in. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, man, post a like, say something, just even in the comments. I enjoy this family because I do. So tune in for the Fazio family. So, it's wonderful. So this is a time where we're going to be just able to talk about your guys' story and just, hey, what did you guys go through, highs and lows, and really just chat through, hey, how are you guys doing as parents? I think the first question I'd probably ask of you is if you were able to go back 16 years and you just found out you're pregnant, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Does anything come to mind for you?
Well, I've got friends that are in that stage of life.
Yeah.
That are recently married, are going to start having kids, and based on what we've been through, my advice to them is it's not going to be anything like you expect. I think maybe at that time when we started, we were like, oh, we can do this. We got a plan. We know, we're going to be great parents and da 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 da. And not that we're not, but it just life doesn't unfold the way you think it's going to. God has a different plan for your family, for your future, and I think that's been the thing now that I guess I wish I would have had a little more grace and patience with ourselves about that, and just knowing that the journey is going to be a way more crooked road than a straight road for us along the way. So, I mean, that's what comes to mind for me.
Mm-hmm. For me, I'd say, I've always had this understanding about myself that I can figure it out, I can do this, and as I continued to grow and parent, I found that I didn't want to reach out to others, and I just wanted to kind of keep to myself, or just between John and I, and try to figure it out together. And what I realized is just like we weren't meant to know how to do this alone. We're meant to be able to depend on others and learn from their experiences and or their ideas and thoughts, and then take that and kind of go whatever direction you choose. But I guess I would say that it's okay to show that you don't know how to do it,
right?
And to seek others, and there's no shame in that, but it does feel shameful to do that. I don't know why, or at least for my personality, it kind of was. It felt like a sign of weakness.
Right.
But it's not.
Yeah. Well, do you ever feel that? I mean, at least so. I have a 3-year-old, and I think a 7-month-old. She's either 7 or 8 months. Okay. But I've found sometimes where you're talking about that needing others, feeling sometimes shame when you admit you have to admit that. For me, I always feel that shame because it's a reflection. For me, I always think this is a reflection of me. My kids are reflecting on how well of a parent I am.
Yeah.
And if I need help, it means really, I think I've discovered is I'm screwed up. I'm like, now people know I don't have it all together, which I don't know. For me, I hate that feeling. That's just a feeling like I'm okay working through it, but I hate feeling that way. So
Yeah, well, and even with that, like there's things in our home that we've taught 100 times, and yet for some reason, they don't take that out into the world. And just like you said, it's not sometimes for a lack of trying, but to the world, it's perceived as, well, they're not working on this at home or whatever. And, we're doing our best, but you're right. It does feel like it's a reflection of
it's on
you.
me.
Yeah.
And so, it's so, I'm just really happy you guys are here and able to share kind of your story, because I got to talk to John earlier this week because I begged him. I said, will you and Amelia do this podcast with me? And first it was a video, and he said, Amelia will not do this. And I said, I will change the whole thing to a podcast if we can have Amelia on it.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping, really one of my favorite parts of talking with you was just you sharing your struggle with your oldest son that you're going through right now.
Yeah.
And reiterating that Preston is literally one of my favorite kids at youth group. And the thing is, as a parent, you're not supposed to have favorites and whatnot. Sure. At youth group, as a youth pastor, I can totally have favorites. I don't care, right? And just his ability to be honest with me is one of my favorite things about him. But just talking to you, John, even last week, and Amelia, I'm really hoping you can chime in with it, and love to hear your perspective. Is just hearing the kind of the 16-year-old now struggle of kind of what you were saying, like I had these expectations of how it was going to go, but things change. God has different plans. We have to adapt. We have to change, and just kind of can you remind? Well, I want to say remind me, but really just tell everybody about it.
Well, when you called me and said, hey, John, let's talk parenting, and my first question was, Kenny, do you think for 1 second that I have any of this figured out? Because I totally do not. So to put my wife and I on a pot, like, what are you doing? I can't tell you anything. But I think that led to some good conversation about just about the journey, about the unpredictability of it, about the different personalities of each kid. And like you had said earlier too, like this is our first teenager, and he's got a really strong spirit about him, and probably like many parents who've raised teenagers, I know this because, like I say, like reaching out to parents who say like, yeah, man, that's a stage that can be really challenging for they kind of go through that, they trying to find themselves, that independence. And again, like when he comes to youth group or when he goes to school, I think he's probably a lot different kid than we see when he comes home in the evening. He's tired and he's wiped out and he doesn't want to do a bunch of family stuff together all night. So I think on one hand, I think he gets a lot of the right messages, but he decides when he wants to
put those in play.
Act on those and demonstrate those. Ultimately, hopefully those things will all become genuine and be happening regularly. But yeah, it's been tough. We were both like very much kind of non-confrontational, rule follower, get good grades, by the book, obey your parents kind of kids. Yeah. And that wouldn't define my oldest. God bless him. Like he's got all his great gifts and talents, and he's got a great heart, but he just wants to do things differently, and he's just made that real clear, And I read something recently that really stuck out to me because we've been through challenges to where like we're not on the same page, and so like the dialogue's not real comfortable, the conversation's not happening regularly. It's kind of like go to the room, close the door, we're not going to say much today, and that's real painful. And this thing I read the other day, he talked about just your real measure is how loved do your kids feel, not how much do you think you're loving them, right? I think I'm loving him. But does he really know that, and is he really feeling that from us? And so that's been kind of a convicting thought for me, like trying to tap into that a little bit more. Are you feeling loved, rather than like, I'm doing everything I should be doing as a parent. Like, it should be working all the time.
Well, it's so crazy because I think as you were saying that, when you said that quote, all I kept thinking was, I think being a parent showed me how selfish I am. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't think I was a selfish human being.
Right.
I mean, I got married and I realized I was super selfish. And then when I had kids, I was like, all I want is time by myself. All I want is for this kid I don't want to feed you. Mm-hmm. And then when you kind of go down that line of like, I want to feel loved by my kids, but then flipping it back over. Yeah. How do I make sure my kids feel that love? I'll be honest, that's a line of thinking. Yeah. I haven't ever even really processed or thought through of, because I always tell my daughter, will you hug me? like you have to hug me, and we say squeeze hug, right? But then,
Another great point on that, which you'd kind of mentioned a little while ago, was just that, like, trying not to be a performance-based love towards, you're not getting good grades, well, then, we're not going to be affectionate towards you. Kind of, I mean, you don't say that, but,
Yeah, because during that conversation, you were telling me that, I mean, you guys both came from college backgrounds, grades, work hard at it, and then your son just struggling in school. Yeah. And you said something that hit me. I mean, I don't remember if you remember this one, but you were like, at one point, he saw a doctor. And can you remind me, what did the doctor said something to you?
Yeah, the main point of it was just, you kind of have to weigh the importance of going after that piece. Now, I don't think it's for everybody to say, who cares if your kids don't get, every kid's going to respond differently. But at that point where we were at, the thought was like, the wall is being built so high between you and his grades and him that it's not really worth the fight in the way that you're continuing to fight it, and I think that was kind of a relief to us a little bit. Now, again, I don't know if that's the long-term answer and we're going to stick on that boat forever, but at that point in time, like I said, like the conversation had really halted. There's a real emotional divide, detachment that was taking place, and it was like, hey, step off the soapbox for now. Quit harassing them about this homework missed, that grade, and just start trying to connect and love him and see him in a different light than him being worth his grades or his academic performance or whatever. In some people's case, it might be athletic performance or any number of things, but just trying to really get to be connected with the person, and it like I said, it feels like, oh gosh, right? Like I shouldn't have to work so hard at that, like that should be natural. But
well, because if anybody's listening to this, I mean, maybe they don't know you. Well, you guys are not just, if he gets bad grades, he gets bad grades. That's not who you are.
No, that was really hard for us. Because he's very capable. He is so bright. But it's just not his passion. And that's one thing about Preston is he will be amazing at what he's passionate at. And like you talked about guitar, he taught himself to do that. He goes up into his room, he spends hours at doing that. And it's amazing. And his singing, and he has some amazing talents. But it unfortunately doesn't sometimes fall into what teachers or society view as important. And so for us, that was really hard to say, okay, really? But too, like grades were already like, the doctor was kind of like, well, can it get much worse? And they're like, no. So he's like, so what else can happen? I mean, if you let off and that's kind of like, okay, let's try that. And I think this one's really hard for me because like he talked about some of our personalities and how we kind of want to raise our kids up. Like what can end up happening is you can sound and be naggy, and you feel like you're doing it in love, and you feel like you're doing it to guide them. And but over time, what we realized with him is that turned kind of into some resentment, and like he didn't feel the love from us because we were constantly pointing out what needed to be
Yeah.
fixed, or how can we change this? And we weren't meaning to do that whatsoever, but we realized the praise, and we even sometimes, I hate to say this, we're like, what do we praise him about? Like we literally...
What's going well right now? Yeah.
Literally had to try to step back and try to make it more about who he is as a person
Exactly.
than how he is, like John said, performing.
Yeah,
because...
exactly.
Your kids may not perform the way you want them to perform, and so you have to find a way to love them and lift them up and encourage them.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and I think what you guys are tapping in right now is just this: your kids are going to either they're going to struggle, and you have to readapt your own expectations. Because one thing, I don't know if you remember, my reaction was like, "What the junk did that doctor? What did he say?" No, and I was like, "This doctor's an idiot.
Yeah, right.
He's not really helping you."
Yeah.
And then as you talked more about it, I remember you just saying, "No, we need to have a longer plan of how does our son feel loved, longer out, not cutting the relationship off here just because."
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are so loving and caring parents. I mean, it's like you were saying, it has nothing to do with him performing and meeting expectations. Just we want him to do well in this world, right? And that involves going to college, and we want him to get a good job so he can support a family, and this, and this. But
Yeah, we can see that big picture, but he can't, and that's hard right now. But you just keep pouring into them and hoping that eventually they take that out into the world and can do it.
I hope you learn, and I think one of the biggest things I've kind of picked up from your guys' own story, and I've been talking to my own wife about it, and saying, hey, it's just that fact of, hey, through this whole entire life as we're trying to parent them, because you guys are a low farther down the road in this parenting scheme.
Yes.
Ponzi scheme that you guys are throwing around, of life. But even as me, I'm starting to think through, okay, well, what expectations do we have that, what if Zoe doesn't meet? Right? And how do I react to that? And how do I make sure we can also kind of follow what the Fazios are kind of dealing with, and just this, how do we make sure she feels loved and take my own selfishness out of it, and all that. And so, I really appreciate you guys sharing just the story, because I can't imagine as an educator and having my oldest son struggle with grades, like I can't imagine that.
Right.
And so,
like you talked about, it makes you feel like it looks like you didn't do.
People not think I can educate now.
I know.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and then we've got our middle who, on her own, has made it a goal to be a 4.0 student, and we did nothing different.
Yeah. In fact, probably a little bit less as far as our involvement with her academics, I mean, with Preston, he was our first, so he was kind of ahead of it. So when it was homework we would sit down at the table, and we all be going at it, making sure, let me help you with this, that, kind of just really hands-on. And with her, we've kind of said, I mean, just the nature of things, like you said, second, third coming through, it's like, hey, your homework done? Okay, yeah, whatever.
Okay, cool.
And so again, every kid's going to be different. Every person's going to be different. It's we're teaching all the same things in our home, and they're being learned differently by each kid. So
that's good. Well, thanks so much for sharing your guys' story. Can you imagine? I mean, we're entering almost 20 minutes now.
I figured.
I really do appreciate you guys just coming in and saying. And telling this microphone here in our very messy studio, very high tech fuzzball studio, and thanks again. I appreciate you guys. I hope other people listen to this and they'll appreciate it, and I know they will. Just by you guys just opening and sharing your story of, hey, this is just what we're going through, and here's what we've learned. I've learned a lot. So. I know other people will too. For sure. Yeah. I think if I could add just one thing we try to remind ourselves on those days where we think we're totally failing as parents, is that, we are committed to staying after it
you know,
Yeah.
and you could be talking about your marriage or whatever, but like even in your parenting, like we're here for each other. We're going to do our best together. We're going to continue to support our kids, support each other, and just don't give up on it. You know, like don't throw in the towel and say like, well, he's never going to figure it out. Like, you know, what's the point anymore? No, we gotta keep, you know, we don't know when that's going to click, or we don't know when he's going to need us in a different way, and we're going to need each other. So I think that's probably like the biggest takeaway we've had as parents together at this stage is just let's keep on keeping on. You know what I mean? Just keep giving that.
But there, it wasn't always that way. When it got real hard, and it's been through phases for us. Yeah. Like there were times where, thankfully, one of us was like, I can't do this anymore.
Pulling the other up.
I just don't know, you know, I need to take a break. And then that person could step in and kind of be that person. And then honestly, it's happened the other way around too. And then that person steps in and like, it's huge to be able to have each other to you know, lean on and give that person time to, cause you got to be in a good mental place yourself to be able to be the best for your kids and for your family, and you got to be kind of vulnerable and honest if you're not, because it's not good for anyone. So so we've definitely had to do a little bit of back and forth of that, but it's good.
That's great. That's good. Isn't that just a darling family? I really do love the Fazios. There are some of they're that family for me. I don't know if you guys out there have this, but they're that family for me that I just awkwardly stare at when they come through church. Like, I just love their family and the humility that John and Amelia have, and just the openness to say, here's what we're going through. Here's how we're trying to figure it out, and we'll see what happens. And I love that. One of the key things I thought in this was just their ability to say, hey, we need to adjust our expectations for our kids. And really what I loved about their story was saying, hey, we need to focus on how do we make sure Preston feels loved. And that was amazing. It made me think, man, how do I make sure Zoe, my daughter, or Piper, my other daughter, feel loved? And so what I would encourage you to do right now is don't just listen to this, but engage with it. So post in the comment section ways that as parents you have found the best to show your kids you love them. Not just by putting food on the table and a roof over their head, but just special things you do for your kids to show them that you love them. We love you guys. I hope you're having a great week. Stay tuned in for the next episode of the PHP podcast.